Today I'm going to show you how to get started on streaming using Streamlabs or OBS. In this case, I'm using OBS to demonstrate this, but since they're pretty much 95% similar to one another, we're going to do this using OBS. Inside OBS, when you start it up for the first time after downloading it, which by the way, I will leave links for in the description in case you want to download these. So when you start up OBS for the first time, you're going to get greeted with this welcoming screen that is going to tell you to log into one of your accounts. So whether you're using Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or Trevor, then you can just go ahead and log in and get started quickly and just, start streaming immediately, basically. If you want to use this for recording and you're not interested in streaming, then you can just say continue without logging in. But let's say you accidentally, clicked continue without logging in, and now you're just jumping straight into the software here. The way you can go back inside the login screen is to go up inside Stream Elements, click it, go down to login, and then you can see we get this back again. So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and log into your account. I'm just going to go and skip this for now, but what you need to do is to log into the account that you want to stream in. So if you want to stream on YouTube or Twitch, just go ahead and log into your account. And once you do that and go through that process, you're going to get to this screen in here where we can just set up our scenes and get started, setting up the different sources, the webcam and the gameplay footage or whatever you want to do. And you can just sort of get started on setting everything up. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of introduce you to what exactly you're seeing in here, since some people are seeing this for the first time and don't know what this is. So basically we have a preview window up here that just has whatever you have inside your scene or inside your stream right now. As you can see, mine is just blank because I have nothing in here. You're also going to have a scenes view, and this is where you're going to set up all the scenes for your stream. So you can actually swap between different scenes as you're streaming. If you want to have the face cam in a different corner, or, if you want to be the, big and the gameplay should be small, or whatever you want to do, you can have different scenes where things are laid out differently and you can just swap between them. And once you have a scene picked, you can go inside sources in order to set up the different sources. So the webcam, gameplay footage, screen recording, different kinds of sources you might want to have inside your scene is going to go in here. Then we have all the audio sources. This is going to be, as you can see right now, it's hooked up to my microphone. So I am talking. So it is registering that I have a microphone talking. And you will also have something called scene transitions. And this is something you can set for when you swap these different scenes down here by just clicking one of them, then there's going to be a transition between them. And this is something you can set up in here. And then we have a small menu in the bottom right corner, which is going to allow for you to gain quick access to some of the different options that we have. For example, you can start recording, studio mode, which is something a little bit different that we don't need to touch on. And we do also have settings, which is very important since we have to set up everything for streaming. So before we get started on building a scene, let's actually go ahead and set up the software in general just for streaming so everything is working like it's intended to. So you don't get any sort of error messages or you don't have a bad quality stream or something like that. So go ahead and click on settings, and then you'll get this small window here that will allow for you to change the settings of your stream. Now it is important to mention that OBS or Streamlabs are not just used for streaming, but also for recording. So there are some settings in here that are going to be relevant depending on whether or not you're streaming or recording. For now, we're just going to focus on streaming. So inside general settings, we're not going to touch anything unless you want to change the language, then you can do that. Then you can go down inside the stream, and then you can pick which service you're using right now. Again, if you did set up everything correctly inside the login introduction, then this should be set up correctly. The next thing we're going to talk about here is going to be the output, and inside output is where we're going to set up all the quality settings. So as you can see up here in the top, we have something called simple and we have something called advanced. Go ahead and change this to advanced, since that is going to allow for us to change, just some of the settings a little bit more customizable. And inside advanced, you can see we get streaming, recording, audio, and replay buffer. The two important ones here are going to be streaming and audio. If you're recording, then of course, the recording tab is going to be important to you. But in our case here, we're talking about how to set up a stream. So inside streaming, you can set up different audio channels. So if you want to stream to a specific channel, then you can pick that one in here. In my case here, I set it up to stream to audio channel 6 since I used the other ones for recording, but you can do whatever you want. But for the sake of this tutorial here, we're going to go with audio track number 6. So go ahead and pick that one if you want to follow this exactly. It's not going to matter which audio track you're using. I just start from the other end whenever it comes to streaming. The next thing is that we have something called audio encoder. In this case here, I can just pick one. So whatever is default for you, just go and pick that one. Then we have the video encoder down here. And in this case, you should be picking your graphics card every single time. The CPU can be chosen, which is the X264. But the CPU is probably not the best thing to be using since it's your CPU and not a graphics card. And the graphics card is usually the better thing when it comes to encoding a stream, since it has more power, it has more resources. Go ahead and pick the graphics card option. The next option we have is something called rescale output, which is going to allow for you to rescale your stream into a different format. So if 1920 by 1080 is too much for your stream to handle, then you can go and tick this on and choose 720 instead. But in my case here, 1920 by 1080 is pretty good, so I'm just going to go and tick this off. You'll notice that a lot of these settings is going to depend on your setup. So your internet connection, how strong is your computer, that kind of thing. So you need to tweak this a little bit according to what your setup might be good for. You don't have to be ashamed to downscale your resolution, by the way. This is something that if you want to have high quality, but you just don't have the computer to stream at 1920 by 1080, then 720 in a lot of cases can be better. The next thing is going to be the encoder settings down here, which is going to be the quality settings. So how much data do you want to upload into your stream? Now you want to be choosing constant bitrate, which is up here. Some people might want to recommend some of these other ones down here, but in general, CBR is just a really good option for people who just want to get started very quickly. The bitrate setting is going to depend a lot on your specific internet connection. So what you should be doing is to test out your internet connection and see how much of an upload speed do you actually have on your current internet connection in order to figure out what exactly you can do here. Now, there is a website here called speedtest.net, which can allow for you to go in and actually test out your internet connection. So if you were to go in here and click go and you were to test out your internet connection, it will tell you what exactly, you have when it comes to, download speed, upload speed. And depending on your upload speed, you can change the settings inside your bitrate. I did not realize I have this good of an internet connection, by the way. So in my case here, I can obviously pick something very good. But the common thing, if you want to, just get started and you don't know exactly what your internet connection is, then choose something around 6,000. Like that is the recommended thing for people, and a lot of streaming platforms won't actually allow more than 6,000 kilobytes per second. So that's something to be aware of. Some platforms do allow for more. So in my case here, I like to choose 15,000 kilobytes per second. But it's really up to you. 6,000 is probably what you should start with, and then you can, go upwards and test if it, unstabilizes your stream. Now, for the other encoder settings down below here, if I skip one, just go and pick the same as I have. So for example, I'll skip the keyframe interval. So if I skip it, just set it to the same thing as I have. But when it comes to the presets here, you can go in and choose how fast do you want this to be uploaded versus how good is the quality going to be. So the faster the upload, the lower the quality is going to be, because it has to spit out your stream faster, which means that it doesn't have as much time to make it into good quality. I usually tend to say I want to have it as slow but good quality because I don't want to have too much latency between me and the viewers whenever I'm streaming. So therefore good quality is just kind of like what I like to do. But you can always switch up and down depending on what you think is more personally comfortable to you. In my case here, I just choose good quality. Same thing when it comes to tuning. I'm just going to go ahead and say high quality here because I want to have a good quality on my stream. Again, you can mess with these settings depending on your setup, if you have a lower end computer or whatever you might have. When it comes to the multipass mode, I can choose single pass, 2 passes, or 2 passes full resolution. So of course, for highest quality setting, full resolution is going to be the best thing here. But again, depending on your setup, you might want to tweak this a little bit. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside our audio tab because we need to tweak some settings in here. So right now you can see that we have different tracks going on. The audio bitrate should be the highest amount possible, since that is going to increase your audio quality inside your stream. Now, currently I did set my streaming to be on track number 6, which means that right now if I'm only interested in streaming, then I need to go down to audio track number 6 and make sure that one is set to the highest quality possible. I can also give this a name if I wanted to. I can just say streaming. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside our audio tab over here on the left side, because we need to make sure we set up the settings in here correctly. So right now I have a sample rate set to 48 kilohertz. That is going to be the higher quality one. You can also go down to channels and say stereo, because that is also the typical one that people pick for higher quality when it comes to the audio. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down inside our global audio devices, because this is very important. So the desktop audio recording is of course going to be desktop audio. So depending on where the audio is coming from when it comes to your computer setup, in most cases it's going to be default for most people. In my case here, I do have my audio coming out from my speakers, Realtek high definition audio, but if I pick default, it is just going to default to that one, since that's what I set up inside my computer's audio settings. When it comes to the microphone settings, we can go and pick a microphone. I'm using this one currently, and that is what I set it up for. If you're using a different type of microphone, you of course need to pick that one in here. Otherwise, you're going to pick up the wrong microphone. So that is very important. And this is the only thing we're going to touch from in here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into video. And you want to make sure that you choose a base and an output resolution. I personally always set my base resolution to 1920 by 1080, and then I output the scaling depending on what I want to output. So, I'm going to set 720 if that's what my stream can handle. In my case, I'm just going to set it to 1920 by 1080 since I do have the internet connection for that. When it comes to the FPS values, this is also going to depend on your internet connection and the stability of your stream. In my case here, I can handle 60 frames per second, but if you have a slightly worse internet connection or something, you can set it down to 30, and that is going to be plenty fine as well. And that is pretty much all we're going to be touching in here. Then you're going to click apply. We're going to close it down by clicking OK. And then we can talk a bit about setting up a scene. So right now you can see I do have quite a few different scenes over here. So what I'll do is I'll create a new scene by clicking this plus icon down here. And we're going to go ahead and set up a scene together. So I could, for example, say this one is called streaming. I'm going to click OK. And then you can see I have nothing inside my sources here because now we need to start inserting some different sources to actually have something on screen here. What I'll do is I'll go in and I'll add in a display capture for display capture, recording my desktop. So I can do that and I can create a new one. Or if you already have an existing one, you can add a existing. In this case here, I'm just going to go ahead and say I want to create a new one. I'm just going to call display capture 2 and I'm going to say OK. And then you can see I have different options I can set up in here. So I do have 3 monitors right now. So I can go inside and say I want to record, different monitors. So I have 3 in here inside my display. But in most cases, if you have the correct monitor here, just go ahead and say OK. Now you're going to notice things are not going to be scaled correctly because we have these what do you call it? Lines over here to indicate that something is off screen and it's not fitting all the way inside my actual view up here. So what you can do is you can go ahead and right click on your device over here inside sources, go inside transform, and then say fit to screen, which is down here. So when you do that, it's going to fit inside your screen here. Now we do of course also have another capture mode, which is for capturing actual gameplay. So if you don't want to record your desktop, but you actually just want to focus on recording your gameplay, which is a good idea since sometimes we may get unexpected pop-ups or something on screen, or if you open a browser window or something and you don't want it to be inside the actual stream because it might have personal information, then doing gameplay capture is the better option since it is only going to show the game that you're actually playing. So what we can do is we can add a new source and we can go inside game capture, and then I can just go ahead and say game capture or add an existing one if you have one already, and I can click OK. So if we were to do that, you can see we can set a mode for capture any full screen application, which is going to be any sort of game that you have open up in full screen mode. If you have a game open, you can also click this and choose a specific game. It will pop up in here. But for now, we're just going to keep it to capture any full screen application. Anything else in here we don't really need to touch, so we can just say OK. And then you'll see I have a game capture and a display capture. Now this is going to be layered, so whatever layer is at the top here. So right now you can see game capture is at the top, which means that my game is going to be on top of my desktop recording because it is below my game capture. You can always deactivate one of them by clicking the eye icon over here, so you can just do that if you want to. So in my case, I'm just going to deactivate my display capture, and I'm going to go ahead and choose a new source because I do also want to add in a webcam. Now in my case here, I am currently using my webcam. That is what I'm using right now to record with. So I can't go inside my video capture device and actually pick my webcam because I'm using it currently. But what you want to do is go in here, say you want to create a new video capture device and you want to pick a video capture device. Right now you can see it's not popping up for me because I'm using it right now to record this video. But go and pick your webcam or whatever video device you might have. There's going to be a drop down here. And you're going to go down to deactivate when not showing. And this is very important because if you have other scenes with the same webcam being inside those scenes, then in some cases when you swap scenes, the webcam is not going to pop up. And that's because it's activated in another scene. So doing this here is going to allow for you to actually deactivate the webcam from the scene you're not using and activate it inside the scene that you're now using. So this is a very important little thing to tick on so you don't get any sort of mess ups when it comes to the webcam. When it comes to the resolution down here, go ahead and pick custom since we can set this up ourselves and that is a lot better. Go ahead and pick a resolution. So in this case here, I have a really good webcam, so I can choose 4K if I wanted to. But just go and choose something like 720 or 1920 by 1080. Really depends on what exactly you want to do here. If you want to just record your face cam down in the corner, then 720 is going to be plenty in order to do that, since you don't need to have a full screen's resolution as a small window down the corner. Again, if you have a beefy PC that can do so, if you have a PC that can do so, you're more than welcome to choose a high resolution. But in my case here, just for streaming, I recommend 720. Then we can also choose a FPS value. So if you want to have 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, again, 60 is going to be more smooth, but again, it depends on what kind of PC you're sitting on. So 60 frames is going to be a little bit more resource intensive, but give you better quality. Then we do also have something called a color range, and this is also one that people tend to forget about. So this one you should set to full, since this is going to allow for it to capture the full range of colors inside your webcam. And this is pretty much what we're going to be touching in here. So I'm going to click OK, and then you're going to add your video capture device. Now, like I said, I'm using my video capture device right now to record this video here, so I can't actually see it inside the scene. So just for testing purposes, just for this tutorial here, I'm going to go ahead and untick this one. And instead, I'm going to add a color. So I'm going to say a color source. I'm just going to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to pick a random color here. I'm just going to pick something like this, just to have something. So, this is going to simulate a webcam. And this is going to be my face cam, my face cam. So as you can see, you can rescale things by dragging in the corner when you get this little thing. You can also do it from the top here if you wanted to. So you can rescale things inside your scene and you can move it around if you want to do that. You can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to gain a little bit of distance, and it even tells you how many pixels of distance you're getting. So in some cases, people tend to put their stream window down all the way in the bottom left corner. I'm the type of person who like to have a little bit of distance away from the screen. So, we have this little illusion here going on, so we can see a little bit of the game around the corner here. But you can go ahead and just scale it down to however you want it to be. You can also hold down the Alt key on the keyboard to actually crop whatever you're doing here. So you can see if you get this little dotted line here, and that means you're cropping whatever is going on here. Now, if your face cam is facing the wrong direction, because it is a thing that you need to be looking in towards your stream. So if this is my face cam, I should not be, if I'm sitting like this on my video, I'm looking that way, right? So you don't want to be looking off screen, you need to be looking in towards the stream. It's just kind of a design thing that you need to do. And I see a lot of people that for some reason decide to look off screen, even though that's not what is good to do. So what you can do is you can go ahead and right click on your face cam, then you can go inside transform, and then you can say flip horizontally, and then it's going to flip your face cam. If you want to go in and make your face cam a little bit prettier, you can also add a filter to it. So if I were to right click on my color source here, just to, because it's like my face cam placeholder, you can go inside at the bottom here where it says filters, and then you can see we get some options in here. So we can go ahead and add a new filter by clicking the plus icon, and then we can choose something like color correction. Just going to call it color correction here. And then you can change the gamma, the contrast. I usually tend to, up the contrast a little bit, because that is going to make things a little bit more, contrasty. It's going to give a little bit more depth to your face cam, so everything doesn't look flat inside your picture. So upping the contrast is a really good idea. You can change the saturation, you can do hue shift or whatever you might want to do. You have many different settings in here, but just to know that you have this color correction setting if you want to do that. If you want to remove a background, for example, if you have a green screen at the back of you, then you can go in and choose the chroma key, so you can actually choose that one. In my case, I'm not using a green screen, so I'm just going to untoggle it here. You can do that by clicking the eye icon, and you can just go ahead and remove it. So this is how you can add filters, and the same thing you can actually do when it comes to your audio sources. So right now you can see I have some audio sources down here. I have my microphone and I have my desktop recording. So you can actually go inside the settings here, and you can also add a filter. So if you want to mess around with filter settings to make your, like equalize your audio, for example, to make it pop a little bit more. If you want to add a limiter so you're not peaking, if you start screaming into the microphone, because you don't want to blow people's ear out when you're talking, then you can choose something like -6 or -3 in here. So you can also add audio filters to your audio. There's going to be a lot of tutorials online with how to set up the filters correctly. This is something that can get really complex if you want to have something like really, studio quality. Another thing I want to point out here is you can also change the audio settings. So if you want to have the game not be as loud as your voice, then you can go ahead and tweak it in here by turning this one up and down. Same thing for your microphone. So if you're talking, and you can see right now, mine is not going into the red, but if I were to turn up my audio settings a little bit, then you can always turn this down. The important thing here is that your audio members don't have this go into the red, because it's going to be really loud for them when they're watching your stream. What we can also do here is we can actually go ahead and right click and go inside advanced audio properties. And if I were to do that, you can now see that we have the desktop audio and our microphone audio. If you have other audio sources inside your scene, if you set that up, you can also see those in here. But what is really important in here is that right now you can notice that my tracks are set up to 1 and 2, which means that I'm not using audio track number 6. And what did we set our stream up to? We set that up to audio track number 6, which means that right now, even though you can see that, oh, okay, my audio is going in because the bar down here is filling up, but for some reason there's no audio on my stream, then it's because we set it up to audio track number 6 inside our settings, and you need to take these on. So this is where you can pick which track your audio is going to go into, so make sure that both of these are set to audio track number 6. Now we do also have another setting in here, which is called the sync offset. And this is actually going to be to fix if your audio inside your stream is a little bit unsynchronized. So if you're moving your lips inside the face cam, but the audio is a little bit behind or in front, then you can change that by changing the offset. And that is just something you're going to have to mess around with, since that is going to depend from computer to computer. So to synchronize your audio with your face cam is a really good idea inside this option here. And that is basically all we need to talk about when it comes to the audio settings. So when it comes to actually getting started on streaming, since we did already connect to our Twitch or to YouTube, when we logged in at the beginning, all you have to do is pick the scene that you want to stream from. So currently I have my streaming scene active down here. So all you have to do is press start streaming. And as soon as you click that button, it is going to send this information to your stream inside your channel, and it's going to start streaming. If you're planning on recording, we do also have a record setting down here. And do keep in mind that if you at some point plan to record and not stream, that you click the right button, because if you accidentally, see this green button up here that says start whatever, and you're just not really thinking, then you might accidentally start streaming instead of recording. So do keep in mind that we have start streaming and we have start recording. And that is basically everything you need to know in order to get started streaming. So with this, you now know how to set up OBS correctly. And like I said, this is going to be pretty much the same thing inside Streamlabs. It might be, maybe like 5% different, but it's not a lot. This is how you can set up OBS or Streamlabs in order to do recording, or in this case, you're streaming. So you can actually stream inside your channel. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.